Have you ever felt that chilling quiet after a long-buried truth finally bursts forth, leaving those who once scoffed in stunned disbelief, their world crumbling around them? It's that moment when the echoes of mockery fade into regret, and the weight of realization hits like a thunderclap, forcing even the most stubborn hearts to confront what they've ignored for too long. If you've ever been the one standing alone, speaking warnings into the wind, while others laughed, only to watch events unfold exactly as you foresaw, then this message is your anchor. Stay with it to the end, because what unfolds here will validate your journey and equip you to rise above the chaos with unshakable peace. The most terrifying echo isn't from a storm, it's the heavy silence that follows when reality shatters illusions, and those who dismissed the warnings are left grappling with the fallout. Chosen soul, that's the resonance rippling through your circle right now. They're not just surprised, they're rattled to their core. Not by any outburst from you, but by the undeniable hand of destiny, pulling back the veil. All those insights you shared, the ones they brushed off as exaggeration or folly, are now manifesting in ways they can't deny, sending them into a frantic search for justifications that simply don't exist. Picture yourself on a high vantage point, calling out alerts while stones of skepticism fly your way. Yet when the predicted tempest arrives, those same doubters scramble for cover, clutching only remorse. This is the scene playing out in your world today. Their amusement has dissolved into hushed admissions, their arrogance into alarm, their skepticism buckling beneath the undeniable proof. At its heart, this mirrors what experts term cognitive dissonance, that disorienting inner turmoil when cherished deceptions clash with harsh facts. And now entire networks are ensnared in it, their foundations of rumor, pretense, and avoidance crumbling like sandcastles in a tide. If this strikes a chord with the isolation you've endured, that quiet ache of being misunderstood while holding on to what you knew was true, consider subscribing to Bible Tales Alive. It's a haven for those who've walked this path, offering the encouragement your spirit craves. And drop a 1 in the comments to signal you're claiming your vindication today, chosen soul. The upheaval you're witnessing goes beyond mere surprise. It's a profound unveiling, stripping away every facade they've clung to, with concealed motives and buried secrets emerging into the light like midday shadows. They once branded you as overly suspicious or theatrical, but now their quiet admissions confess the accuracy of your vision, gnawing at them more than any debate ever could. Exposure doesn't strike suddenly, it creeps in as faint murmurs, subtle fractures in their defenses, escalating into an unstoppable surge that floods out everything they've suppressed. This is the reason your group is so unsettled. The deceptions they've upheld have disintegrated, and the clarity you voiced is the torrent sweeping it all away. They assumed they could evade consequences, but destiny remembers every detail. Throughout time, this dynamic has repeated. Truth speakers face ridicule until evidence forces a reckoning, from ancient visionaries to contemporary revealers. The sequence endures: initial scorn, stubborn opposition, eventual concession to irrefutable facts. You're entrenched in that very loop, but intimately so, within your own network. The individuals who undervalued you now quaking at the repercussions of their oversight. They dubbed you dishonest, yet now their realities are fraying like worn threads. They deemed you exaggerated, but they're ensnared in turmoil, far more intense. They aimed to mute you, but now the cosmos amplifies your foresight, louder than before. Deep down, their resentment isn't solely toward the events, it's toward your foreknowledge, a sting sharper than the revelations themselves. So pause and absorb this, chosen soul. This is your affirmation, a lesson in resilience as your surroundings learn painfully that dismissing reality doesn't shield, it devastates. And you, once derided, embody the equilibrium destiny demands. If the sting of betrayal and the quiet triumph of being proven right resonate with the battles you've fought in solitude, subscribe to Bible Tales alive to connect with a community that understands and uplifts those who've been there, and leave a 2 in the comments to affirm you're stepping into this season of validation. Before delving further, chosen soul, breathe deeply and acknowledge this. Your presence here confirms you're not delusional, not fabricating scenarios. You were simply attuned ahead of the curve, and that insight merits honor. Share in the comments, I saw it coming, if you faced derision only to witness the tide turn later, and if this resonates, contribute to sustaining these revelations with a token of appreciation. No matter the size, empowers the spread of light into shadowed corners, ensuring this momentum builds unstoppably. Now, let's unpack this layer by layer. If your spirit senses the pull, you'll be drawn in with each revelation, and by the conclusion, the reasons for their collective unease will crystallize. To begin, you weren't imagining threats, you were perceptive beyond their grasp. They tagged you as overly cautious or erratic to deflect from their discomfort, hurling accusations to mask that your keen awareness threatened their fragile equilibrium. You didn't merely observe surfaces. You detected underlying strains, the subtle mismatches in expressions and words that others overlooked. This wasn't fabrication, it was honed intuition, and rather than value it, they isolated you to preserve their denial. Now, envision confronting a blaze they ignored, only to be blamed for the alert. That's their current plight, engulfed in the very peril they denied. While you stand firm, psychologically, humans resist the uncontrollable, lashing out at revealers rather than addressing issues. You weren't at fault. Your precision was. If this mirrors the dismissal you've internalized, that nagging doubt about your own instincts, despite the evidence mounting in your favor, subscribe to Bible Tales Alive for ongoing reminders that your perception is a gift, not a curse. In type A4 in the comments to reclaim your clarity. Truth doesn't clamor for attention, it flourishes in quiet spaces, which is why your initial words met resistance. They cut too deeply, too truthfully, for a setting reliant on superficial harmony. They reframed your honesty as disruption because admitting its validity would dismantle their carefully curated deceptions. The instant you voiced concerns, their facades wavered, and exile became their defense. But shattered mirrors don't erase reflections, they multiply them. Now slicing through their pretense with every misstep, replaying your insights in solitude, they grapple with the echoes they can't silence, your quiet withdrawal amplifying the message more than any confrontation. Truth, like a buried seed, germinates unseen, sprouting unavoidably. The alerts you planted are now blooming indisputably. They rejected you not for error, but for timeliness, unable to confront the upheaval your accuracy foretold. Now entangled in their own webs, they're unraveling, while your restraint proves prescient. If the pain of being unheard, that emotional isolation when your warnings fell on deaf ears, only to prove true, weighs on you still, subscribe to Bible Tales Alive to find solidarity and strength in stories that echo your own, and drop a 1 in the comments to let that truth take root deeper. Your exclusion wasn't haphazard, was a calculated maneuver to sideline a voice that threatened their status quo. They orchestrated your removal because your unyielding honesty made you a risk to their veiled alliances and unspoken pacts. History echoes this. Those unveiling decay, face banishment, not reform, as groups prioritize illusion over integrity. You didn't belong by design. Your role was to illuminate flaws, not conform. And now as deceptions crumble, your foresight stands vindicated. Exile served as their tool, but your affirmation arrives through their disarray. If this revives the sting of deliberate rejection, that sense of being strategically sidelined for seeing too clearly, subscribe to Bible Tales Alive to transform that hurt into empowerment, and leave a 2 in the comments to honor your purpose. You embodied the solution they sought yet spurned, arriving unvarnished rather than idealized, offering confrontation over consolation. They craved resolution sans accountability, rejecting your directness as it demanded change they weren't ready for. Like rescuers rebuffed by the drowning, your aid felt abrasive, yet it was precisely what could have spared them. Now, immersed in the betrayals and patterns you highlighted, they rue dismissing the remedy embodied in you, blocking you, sealed their fate from healing. If this evokes the frustration of offering help only to be turned away, that quiet grief of unheeded wisdom. Subscribe to Bible Tales Alive for validation and tools to channel it forward, and type A3 in the comments to recognize your role as healer. You weren't the turmoil, you were the alert they disregarded. Your presence signaling issues already festering beneath their facade. They confused your vigilance for disruption, preferring denial's ease over action's demand. Like silencing a smoke detector amid rising haze, they blamed the warning, not the threat. Now, engulfed in the blaze, they questioned the absence of forewarning, forgetting you were the voice they muted. Your insight didn't divide, it unveiled hypocrisy. If this heals the blame you've shouldered for others' avoidance, that burden of being cast as instigator. Subscribe to Bible Tales Alive to reclaim your voice as protector and drop a 4 in the comments to sound your alarm anew. They weren't bewildered, they were active participants in the hush, glimpsing the same flaws, yet opting for conformity over courage. Silence equated endorsement, their inaction a shield for complicity as you bore the isolation of truth. Like theatergoers ignoring flames to sustain the show, they resented your interruption more than the peril. Now, as exposures mount and alliances fracture, their herd mentality leads to the precipice they denied. Your steadfastness contrasts their evasion. If this exposes the betrayal of those who saw but stayed silent, that ache of abandoned loyalty, subscribe to Bible Tales Alive to find allies in authenticity and leave a 1 in the comments to break your silence. You didn't fracture them, you illuminated existing fissures. Your light, revealing the pretense of their unity. Communities perform stability, but your refusal to partake exposed the rot. Like yanking a curtain on flimsy sets, you didn't cause the decay, you made it visible. They resented the confrontation your honesty demanded, preferring compromise over integrity. Now, amid ruins, they confront what you long ago named. If this affirms the isolation of being the revealer in a world of pretenders, that spiritual solitude, subscribe to Bible Tales Alive for camaraderie and truth and type A2 in the comments to shine your light. What they deemed insolence was your precision slicing through deceptions, unwilling to venerate facades. They labeled your challenges as defiance, but it was discernment refusing to enable corruption. Like refusing applause for a decaying core, your stance threatened their illusions. Now, as idols topple and exposures abound, they wish for your insight they once scorned. Your so-called rebellion proves prophetic. If this redeems the criticism you faced for unwavering honesty, that wound of misjudged intent, subscribe to Bible Tales Alive to celebrate that discernment and drop a 3 in the comments to honor it. Your anguish wasn't frailty, it was the indelible record they can't erase, unmasking their essence through responses to your trials. Indifference, or added burdens, testified to their character, a litmus for authenticity amid claims of care. Like aid withheld in floods, actions revealed truths, words concealed. Now, as their deceptions unravel, your endurance stands as evidence of their failings. Suffering forged preparation, not waste. If this transforms scars from shame to testimony, that deep validation, subscribe to Bible Tales Alive to share in collective healing, and leave a 4 in the comments to bear witness. You didn't foresee, you decoded their recurring flaws. Intuition spotting unaddressed loops destined to replay. They viewed events as chance. You diagnosed systemic ills, warnings not guesses but pattern recognition. Like spotting rigged games, you unveiled ineviate abilities. As repetitions manifest, coincidences dissolve into confirmations. Your diagnostics now haunt their oversights. If this empowers overlooked foresight, touching prophetic pains, subscribe to Bible Tales Alive to harness Itan Type A1. In the comments to diagnose anew, you weren't destined for conformity or positioned to unmask your outsider. Feel a divine setup for clarity. Detachment wasn't haughtiness but preservation, refusing toxic bonds. Like a non-conforming piece appending games, you revealed rigged boards. Now, as illusions shatter, your separation proves prescient. Assignment over acceptance. If this affirms purposeful apartness amid belonging aches. Subscribe to Bible Tales Alive for like-minded revealers and drop a 2 in the comments to stand apart. Your quietude wasn't concession, it was potent strategy, allowing self-exposure while time affirmed truths. They misread restraint as retreat, but patience amplified messages. Like calm defendants, letting evidence prevail, you won without clamor. Now, replays torment them, your withdrawal echoing eternally. If this validates strategic silence touching unspoken strengths, subscribe to Bible Tales Alive to wield it wisely and leave a 3 in the comments to echo louder. Chosen soul. Validations emerge as warnings materialize, their ridicules silenced by destiny's hand. You endured for this revelation. If truths touching vindicated pains resonate, like, subscribe to Bible Tales Alive, and share stories next uncovers deeper signs. Don't miss expanding horizons. God exceeds imaginations. See you soon.